We often think of stress symptoms, those headaches, the stomach pain, that constant anxiety, as these enemies we have to fight off. But what if they're not enemies at all? What if they're actually a language? In this explainer, we're going to decode the secret messages your body is sending you, and they all point to one thing: where you're giving your power away.
We've all been there, haven't we? That tight, awful feeling in your gut right before a tough conversation, or that tension headache that just pops up out of nowhere. These feelings are so common that most of the time we just try to push through them. But the material we're digging into today suggests these aren't just random aches and pains. Nope, they are very, very specific signals.
Okay, let's just pause on this for a second, because this is the whole game right here. It's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? It's saying the root cause of all this suffering isn't just stress, but a very specific state of mind: dependency. And this isn't just some nice metaphor. It's a core principle from a field that looks at how our inner world, our consciousness, directly creates our outer world, including our physical health. And this is where it gets really practical, almost like a translation guide. So that tension headache you get before a family get-together, well, that might be your body screaming that you're dependent on their approval to feel okay. That knot in your stomach while waiting for an email, that could be your dependency on getting a specific answer. And that constant low-level anxiety humming in the background, that's the weight of feeling like your peace depends on a million things totally outside of your control.
So how does this even work? How does a feeling of dependency actually create a physical ulcer or a migraine or a panic attack? Let's get into the mechanics of it, how our consciousness literally shapes our physical reality.
To really get this, we have to understand two key terms: mind and consciousness. Think of your mind as this incredibly powerful creator, like a super advanced 3D printer. And your consciousness, that's the raw material you feed it. So if you're constantly feeding it a consciousness of dependency, this deep belief that your happiness, your safety, your good comes from out there, then your mind has no choice. It has to print an experience that matches that belief.
And this really shows us the two sides of the coin, doesn't it? Remember, the word ulcers here is just a stand-in for any stress-related illness. The exact same power that creates the problem, our mind running on a program of dependency, is the very same power that can solve it. All we have to do is change the fuel to independence.
This slide lays it out so clearly. The dependent state is all about waiting. You're waiting for the promotion to feel successful, waiting for the apology to feel peace, waiting for the right person to feel complete. It's this belief that happiness is something that happens to you. But the independent state, it gets that peace is an inside job. It takes full responsibility, and right there, that's where all the power is.
And let's be real, most of us were trained in dependency our whole lives. We learned to look outside of ourselves for validation, for a sense of security, for our own worth. This isn't some personal failing. It's a deeply ingrained cultural habit. We're taught that our wholeness is conditional on something happening out there.
Now, all this theory is one thing, but a real story? That's what makes it click. So let's talk about a case study of a woman the source calls Margaret, who was absolutely crippled by migraines.
Margaret had tried everything. She'd been to every specialist, she'd taken every medication you can think of. Nothing gave her any lasting relief. Her physical pain was just this constant presence in her life. And to the entire medical world, its cause was a total mystery. And here it is, the single source of years of physical agony. It wasn't in her body at all. It was in her consciousness. She had made her own peace of mind completely, 100% dependent on her adult daughter making choices that she approved of. Every time her daughter did something she didn't like, Margaret's body reacted with pain.
This was the turning point for her. This was the moment of truth. She had to realize that her daughter's journey belonged to her daughter, and her own peace belonged to her. And this wasn't about stopping her love for her daughter, not at all. It was about realizing that true love means letting other people be who they are, without making their choices the source of your own suffering. And please, if you take one thing away from her story, let it be this. Her daughter didn't change. The external situation stayed exactly the same. The healing happened because Margaret took her power back. She shifted her consciousness from dependency to independence, and her mind responded by creating health instead of pain. It's that simple and that profound.
Okay, Margaret's story is incredible, but how do we actually do this in our own lives? How do we stop creating these ulcers, both the real ones and the metaphorical ones? Let's get into the practical steps.
Okay, this is a fascinating tool. It's almost like a secret decoder ring for your own mind. The next time you feel that powerful urge to criticize someone, to point out what they're doing wrong, how they should be different, that feeling is actually a huge signpost. It's pointing directly to a place where you've made yourself dependent on them acting a certain way for you to feel okay.
So what do you do when you see that signpost? The source lays out a really simple 3-step practice. First, just notice. Become a detective of your own feelings. Where do you feel that resentment or criticism bubbling up? That's your clue. Step 2, redirect. Pull your focus away from trying to fix them and turn it inward. And then step 3, ask a better question. Not how can I change them, but what must I know right here inside myself to be at peace no matter what they do?
This is the fundamental truth that this whole idea is built on. You are not a victim of your life, not a victim of your circumstances. This is a reminder that you are the operant power. You're the one in charge of your own experience because it's your mind creating your reality based on the consciousness you provide.
So what's the payoff for all this inner work? What does it actually feel like to live from a place of independence? I'll tell you, it's not about being isolated or alone. It's about a deep and authentic kind of freedom that most of us are craving.
Just imagine this. Imagine being free to love people without needing them to change for you. Free to genuinely wish them well on their path, even if it's not the path you'd choose for them. You'd be free to actually be present in your own life because you're not constantly on guard. You stop being a collection of needs and you start becoming a presence of peace for everyone around you.
And this quote just brings it all home so beautifully. This journey isn't about becoming some cold, unfeeling island. It's about upgrading your ability to love. It's about moving from that transactional, ego-based love that says, I love you if, to a vast, unconditional love that has no strings attached.
So we come full circle. That knot in your stomach, that tension in your shoulders, they are not punishments. They are not your enemy. They are simply feedback from an incredibly intelligent system. They're invitations to look a little deeper.
So, I'll leave you with the final question this source poses. What if every single stress symptom you feel is actually a custom-made invitation to stop looking outside for your peace and to finally come home to your own inner power? What in your life might change if you decided to accept that invitation?